Welcome to Season 2 of the Craft Beer Connoisseurs Podcast. I'm Chris, and if you're new to the podcast, we're three friends and a producer who like to showcase craft breweries and their beers. Also, we like to end every episode with a short conversation on a variety of different topics. If you're not new to the podcast, welcome back. We'll keep things similar to Season 1. After all, if it isn't broke, then don't fix it. Whether you're new or returning, please feel free to listen to all of our Season 1 content. And remember to follow us on Instagram at Craft Beer Cons, send a friend request on Untapped, or subscribe on YouTube at Craft Beer Connoisseurs. Also, drop a comment, like, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Now for today's episode. Welcome to Craft Beer Connoisseurs. I'm Chris.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Brett. And along with us today is producer Pierre.
Pierre.
Bonjour, Pierre.
Bonjour, Pierre.
So in today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Paris Beer Company out of, you guessed it, Paris, Ontario. No,
Paris?
Not France.
Not France, no.
No Paris?
And guess what? We're going to be having two beers today.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. We're breaking script. No way. The first one is Mill Race, which is a Bohemian Pilsner. And the second is from the Tagwerk Brand, which is a witbier with Quince.
Oh, very nice. To finish up today's episode, we're going to be touching base on a bunch of different sports.
All right, so let's talk about the Paris Beer Company. So it's located at 31 Mechanic Street in Paris, Ontario again. And it's
Good to qualify that.
That's good. That's
Don't go to France. You're not
not.
going to find it. So it's right near where the Grand River and the Nith River connect. So if you're a river connoisseur and you know where the rivers connect, then there you go.
It would be in Paris, right near the brewery.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
That's it.
So the brewery and tap room is just to the left of the huge Wincy Mills building, which has been in existence all the way since 1889. And where there's a year-round local market which offers local meats, crafts, and other neat things.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
a nice area, and we'll get to that in a bit, I'm sure. It's founded by the brothers Ken and John Edgar, along with their wives, Jennifer and Marcia. Marcia. And good family friend / brewmaster, Christian von der Heide, I believe is pronounced correctly-ish.
Correctly-ish. Yes, there you go.
We'll see. The first taste test opening actually Halloween of 2020. And the Edgar family has had their hand in all the local farming community for 7 generations. So they've been in the area for a long time.
So since 1889, basically.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's
Maybe even longer.
pretty well it, yeah.
So the brothers also have a hop farm called Von Edgar Hop Farm, where, as you might have guessed, all the hops that are used in their beers come from.
No way.
Yes. So they also have the plan to keep the business thriving within the family, as Ken's son Tobias was enrolled in the brewmaster program at Niagara College.
Nice.
So, onwards and upwards, as they say. So the brewery is a perfect blend of the farming community when it comes to the Edgar experience with hops, and Christian's over 35 years in the beer industry, which includes working in, a long time, Germany, Belgium, England, Ireland, Kenya, Vancouver, and he was also the former president and CEO of the Cybele Institute of Technology, saying Cybele right, in Chicago, which has been one of the elite brewing schools in the world since 1868.
Wow. Yeah.
So you want to know what he does now?
What does he do now?
So he's now also the chief operating officer of Brunswick Beerworks in Toronto, and also finds time, when he's got time, I guess,
Right.
to farm his 110 acres on Cape Chin in the Bruce Peninsula.
Jeez.
Wow.
Busy.
He is a working man.
He is.
I go to work and I do a podcast.
Yeah.
Same.
We thought we were busy. So I guess with his 35 years of experience, these are probably going to be really, refined beers that we're having.
Traditional, refined. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just it. I think what you see here, judging by the experience of Germany, the Belgium, the England, is you're not going to get these kind of funky dunky IPAs, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be very traditional, kind of
Very
back to the
traditional,
roots
yeah.
of 1800s beer styles, right?
So the owners of Paris Beer Company wanted to create Paris's first taproom brewery with a focus on quality beer. So obviously hiring Christian, I think, that.
Check one.
Yes, absolutely.
I think so.
So basically, the brewery includes a tasting room where the beer, obviously can be enjoyed with small bites and great ambiance. So we'll get into exactly what the brewery is like in a little bit.
Yes, so a big note that Paris has done is hired Janice.
I love Janice.
Do you?
Tell us about Janice.
I will. So it is a machine, not a person. It's a machine that features mask recognition technology that alerts for non-compliance of mask wearing requirements. So if a customer is not wearing one or it isn't positioned properly, it will notify both the customer and the staff.
Janice. Love a good compliance.
You would too. It also monitors body temperature. So if you have a body temperature of over 37.3, it will audibly notify a staff member to come over and complete the process again, with the final decision being left up to the staff to let the customer in. Obviously, when restrictions allowed people to be inside.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I think one of the coolest things that Paris does, so we mix the traditional beer style with maybe something a little bit more modern in terms of technology and kind of funk. On their website, the brewery's created a Spotify playlist to go with each beer.
Yes.
How dope is that?
It's actually very cool. So I listened to a few of the playlists. I'll be honest, some of the songs like I've never really heard of, but it's really good to hear some of the music to understand like what the I don't know, kind of like what the mood you should be in for the beer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. I like that.
So in terms of what they're doing now, so they actually have a new international collaboration brew project with the Quezza Craft Brewery. So it's actually Rwanda's first craft brewery.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Rwanda?
Rwanda,
Oh.
yes.
So
yes.
going back to his roots maybe in Kenya. Right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So obviously we'll share more information about how you can help them out and how you can share with them. But so there's actually breweries across 3 continents have united to make beer using sorghum, which is a local gluten-free raw material from Rwanda.
Nice.
Yes.
All right. So they do have a full-fledged kitchen, and they've got some great food there as well. And maybe I'll talk about that in a bit here, but let's do some of the just kind of the stats on it. So for Untapped, there's 23 beers that have been created by Paris Brewing Co., which is nice to see because, again, very traditional. And it's not like they're just mass producing a bunch of different beers to get them out. They very stick to what they know.
And we should mention that they're relatively new. I think they opened in 2020.
October.
Yeah,
right.
Halloween.
On
That was the
Halloween.
tasting
Right,
night,
yeah.
And so they are very, very new. And I'm somewhat around that area frequently. And I'm glad that they're there. So, Brett, how many have you had?
So this is actually, I didn't go back and look at the previous 33 episodes we've done. But this is actually one of the Ontario breweries I haven't had anything from yet.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were clapping.
Neither is Chris either. So
I haven't had any either. So you and I, Brett, we're in for a treat, I think.
Yes, I think so.
Trying our first Paris beers
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah.
So as you can probably guess, Tyler's winning.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really win often in terms of beers consumed, but he does this one.
Yeah.
So you said 5. So tell me about the 5 beers that you've had.
Yeah, I've had a Lazy Dog, their Hellerbach, their Oktoberfest, because I was there actually in October as well, which was the wheat beer, Mill Race, Salty Stinger Sour, because I'm a big sour, and that's a Goza, and then Barnyard Bully Chris. You've had 0, right?
I have had 0, yeah.
So the producer has had both the Barnyard Bully, which is an IPA,
Yep.
and actually he's had the Tagwerk with Quince.
Nice.
that we're going to have to
Quince.
Quins.
Quins.
And we'll get there.
Yes,
We'll
we
get
will.
to the proper
So
pronunciation. yeah.
myself and the producer have been there. The producer has said the following. So Pierre sat outside on the heated patio because it was during COVID, and even though there was in person, at the time they wanted to kind of sit outside, and it was quite enjoyable.
I believe it was in the summertime though, so it made it a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, always a lot easier than standing.
I mean, I'm not like up and up in terms of what Pierre does, but like I think it was the
You
summertime.
got to get in that WhatsApp group.
We have his.
But I'm
his
not a
Untapped.
producer, so why would I?
Right.
You got to get in there. You got to see what's going on. You got to. These guys get out of hand.
Apparently.
So, as I said, I was there not too long ago as well. And so I went with a buddy of mine, Spencer, and his wife, Chantel. And actually, they're a little newish born child. So it's kind of a cool
I don't know what
experience.
your definition of newish is, but okay.
Yeah, it was newish. You know,
Within
there
the
you
past few years.
yeah, and my fiance went too. So-
She's 7.
no, it's a he. And
He's 7.
it was one of his first brewery experiences. So I'm
Oh,
glad-
that's nice.
Yeah, I was glad to be there.
A moment he can remember. So have you been there just the one time or a few times?
So I've been there once, but I've had their beer a couple times
Okay.
beforehand. Actually,
you got some takeaways?
No, well, yes, but no.
Yeah. Okay.
My fiance's Nana, she actually picked some up, knowing that, big fan of the craft beer.
Good job, Nana.
Yeah,
Good job.
She actually came through with the Lazy Dog. So,
nice.
Yeah, so again, the experience there, where it is in the Quincy Mills kind of area, it's beautiful. Also, great Chinese at Jade's Chinese restaurant if you're in Paris and you want to get some Chinese food. But
I don't think I've ever been to Paris, both Ontario and France.
there you go.
Yeah, me.
So I'll check out the Chinese food when I'm there.
Yeah, there's some good spots there, but the brewery's in a nice location. They've done a very nice kind of brewery setting. You see all the equipment there. It's not huge, but again, their food's good. Good soft pretzels. We talked about it last time.
Who does
another
not
soft
like a good
pretzel.
soft pretzel?
Telling you, and I don't know if that was just strictly because of Oktoberfest, but they had that. So,
Well, I was going to say, with Christian's German heritage, I mean, you got to have a soft pretzel, right?
Yeah.
Now, do they have good quality beer mustard?
they have great beer mustard. Yeah,
That's what I look for in a pretzel.
So when I was there, naturally, we did some flights. So Spencer and I did some flights, and I mentioned the podcast.
How many flights did you do?
I did one in a bit. So I mentioned the podcast, and I actually got a couple free tasters, and we kind of did a taste test between wet hops and dry hops and how that changes the beer. Nice. So the owner's daughter, who's a manager there, she came over and gave us a whole kind of rundown, and that's kind of how we hooked up with the connection here. But one thing that they do really well is with the flights is they put like a cue card of information, and you're going to see that when we do the first beer coming up. So great brewery inside, great food inside and outside, as producer Pierre says as well. So
Correct.
We should move it along.
Yeah, so their Speakeasy bottle shop right now is open from Wednesdays to Saturdays from 11 to 7. So obviously there's no indoor dining. And then delivery, they do deliver free within the Paris area. And they have shipping available all around Ontario, which is dependent on your location and the amount of your order. And we mentioned in our last producer special to, take a look at the breweries around you and, support them with buying their beer and having it delivered to you. So
Paris is one of them.
Paris is one of them.
I would suggest to purchase some Paris beer.
Yeah. So we're going to link their information on our social media so you can make those delivery purchases.
And speaking of beer, since we're a craft beer podcast, we should probably get on with the first one, shouldn't we?
We should.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you to Christian for the beers provided on today's episode.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Good. The first beer is called Mill Race, which is a Bohemian Pilsner. It is a 5.5% ABV and 25 IBUs.
Nice. So, yes, this beer is noted as an easy yet sophisticated drinking beer, winning on all occasions. So it must be Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Winning.
Winning.
It uses triple pearl hops, and then this classic Pilsner balances both maltiness with floral notes and noble bitterness. So just a little history lesson. Most Bohemian Pilsners date all the way back to 1842.
Wow. And
it usually provides a soft body with medium carbonation. Now, Chris, as you mentioned earlier, they have a playlist for all the songs.
They do.
For all the beers. So for the playlist for this beer, obviously, called Mill Race Bohemian Pilsner, do you think of one song it might contain to start off with?
Well, I can see it, so I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say Bohemian Rhapsody by
Who
Queen.
could have thought, right?
Very appropriate.
And also, Do You Believe in Magic by the Lovin' Spoonful and Drive My Car by the Beatles, just to name a few.
Yeah, it is a really good playlist, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, 100%.
So on Untapped, you can follow us at Craft Beer Connoisseurs and on Instagram at Craft Beer Cons. And the overall rating on Untapped for Mill Race is 3.63 bottle caps out of 5 with 287 check-ins. And the can, which we are drinking, has 149 ratings with a 3.62. Now, we mentioned we are drinking this out of the can, but this beer is actually also available in their online store in stubby bottles.
Who doesn't like a good stubby bottle?
Yeah, I love a stubby bottle, which is very rare. You don't see that very often
you don't.
anymore.
Yeah. And when we're talking cans, we're talking the 473 milliliters.
That's right. Yeah.
This is correct, yes.
So let's grab the can and the glass and let's open her up. Nice.
And Chris, what are we drinking this out of today?
So we are drinking this out of a Pilsner glass. Now, Paris does state that it should be drank out of a Willy Becher glass, which is a German-style pint glass. I wasn't really familiar with this glass, to be honest, but we took a look at it.
What? Chris, not familiar with glassware?
But it does look very similar to the Pilsner glass that we're using. So I think we're using the proper glassware.
So now is Producer Pierre using the proper glassware?
He is with the nice craft beer connoisseurs logo on it.
Thank you. I just wanted to pump us up again in terms of having the craft beer connoisseurs logo on that one.
Well, everyone, make sure to use your proper glassware.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. So what do we see here on the pour? Anybody?
Well,
What do you got?
it's definitely kind of like a little bit darker than you would expect from maybe just a regular Pilsner, which a Bohemian Pilsner, that it is kind of darker. It has that darker malt, and that malt character comes through more than in just a regular Pilsner.
Mm. Yes, I'm seeing a nice, again, golden color. Not a whole lot of head retention, which is totally fine. I'm definitely A-okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm getting...
Yeah.
I have a decent amount.
Right, yeah.
And it is kind of like a nice...
Frothy?
Soft, frothy.
Yes, nice.
Head.
It is frothy, for sure, from what I have. Yep.
Yeah.
Tyler?
I'm getting the same sort of thing. It's not as dark as I thought it might have been, right?
No.
It is a little bit lighter in kind of that gold hueish look. Ooh, Producer Pierre coming through looking nice with the glassware.
Look at the carbonation.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Carbonation, yes.
You should get a boomerang of that.
We actually, I actually just answered somebody's information on our question on Instagram regarding the enucleation. So,
Yes, true.
There we go. So, fun fact for everybody. What are you guys getting on the nose? Maltiness?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's not very strong to me, like the scent of this beer. But
No,
yeah,
it's very basic, yeah, for sure.
definitely getting the maltiness, and I would say it smells like a typical Pilsner, what I would expect out of a Pilsner.
Absolutely.
At least. Yeah.
All right.
Well, should we taste it?
Yeah, I think we should.
Good.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's taste a little bit of it.
I will just continue to fill time with my voice while the other two drink it. So then that way they can fill in while I drink it afterwards, right? Tyler, go first.
Yeah, first and foremost is I'm still getting the very Pilsner kind of flavor profile with a little bit of maltiness. Mm-hmm. It's nice on the palate, though. Like
Yes.
It's not over and above. It doesn't try to be this huge malt forward kind of beer. Very, very clean. Very clean.
Yeah. You know what? We mentioned how Christian, the brewer at Paris, has a ton of experience in kind of the traditional styles and from the countries where the beers originated from. And I think if you were to go to Germany, for example, and have a Pilsner, this is very similar to what you would get. This is not necessarily a beer that you might find often here in Canada, but I really like this beer, actually, and I really like the kind of traditionalness of it.
Now, do you think it hits in terms of the floral notes and the noble bitterness that is described?
So I'm not really getting much floral, but I would say, yeah, like the bitterness it's not what you would get from like a West Coast IPA, obviously. But yeah, it's there. It has like a bit of a bite, but it's still a clean, crisp, refreshing beer.
Yes, and I'm getting you get the bite on the back end, obviously. In terms of
Just one second.
Yeah,
I just see Chris going here. Take a big gulp of that, though. Take a big gulp.
A big gulp, eh?
Yeah, take a big gulp.
not 7-Eleven, just here.
I did the same sort of thing, and I got actually more floral in that, kind of like just a larger quantity in my mouth.
Maybe. I have a hard time kind of from a flavor perspective hitting floral sometimes.
Yep.
Never really eaten the flower, so
No dandelion wine or anything?
No.
but yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this is a really well done beer, and we mentioned like that's what we're expecting. Like the beers might not be absolutely amazing in terms of our kind of what our palate's like, but it's going to be well done.
We knew it wasn't going to be a 1 going in.
Absolutely.
Right? That's one of those things. Very crushable on a hot day. Producer Pierre is coming in with now.
Yeah, to comment on that, though, I think that this beer is kind of that, let's call it an equator beer, right?
Yeah.
It could be crushable on a hot day, but I also feel like you could have this on the north side of the equator as well, and it'd be a little bit cooler. And this still is a good beer. Absolutely. I feel like this kind of goes both ways. You can have a very hot day and enjoy this, or you could be settled, on like a cold patio.
Yeah, putting some work in outside when it's -5, and you have this beer, the first one to start off. Absolutely, 100%.
A nice, right after the
I'm getting a little bit of
driveway.
breadiness, though, as I kind of in the mid and the beginning. Somebody getting that breadiness?
Yeah, I could see that.
A little bit. And I think obviously that comes from the maltiness, right?
Absolutely,
Which
yes.
you would expect from a Pilsner.
Now, would you give this beer to somebody, for example, and Producer Pierre is coming in, it's like, would you give this beer to somebody who, normally drinks Budweiser, Coors, all the basic domestics, if you will?
I'd give any beer to anyone.
Well, that's I'm talking about
throwing out
specifically
a lifeline.
Meal Race, the Bohemian Pilsner.
So basically, the question essentially from Pierre is like, would this be an easy transition
Correct,
to
yes.
craft beer
Yes.
from your big brands, right? I would say yes, but it's also a little bit more sophisticated than maybe just your regular lager that you might find at a craft brewery.
And that may come from the triple pour hops that are included in that too, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I would say probably not, because if you come in thinking it's going to be more like a Coors or a Miller Lite, that you're thinking more of like that kind of mainstream Pilsner, whereas this has more characteristic. It has more depth to it. And if your mindset is thinking, okay, I'm having a Coors Light, you're not going to probably enjoy this right off the hop.
I would agree. I don't think someone who drinks those beers a lot would enjoy this one necessarily.
Yeah.
Now, necessarily a fun fact, if you will, is that a lot of brewers hate Untapped in terms of the Pilsner lagers always seem to get around that 3.5 rating.
Right.
Because there isn't much distinction, although, if they hit on what they're supposed to be, clean, refreshing, should it get to 4 and above?
Well, we're going to find out later on, for sure. But
Yeah.
depending on what we give it,
We will find out.
I think Producer Pierre is kind of sinking my ship on this one, and you'll find out later on. So
why don't we talk about the 5 flavor profiles that are on Untapped?
Let's do that.
So the first one that comes in is crisp, which I'm getting.
I agree with for sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't my first.
No? Well, we'll
Because
find
I've had
out.
this beer before. So
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually had crisp was number 2.
Okay.
Now, did you have it in a flight or a full pint of it?
I had it just in a flight.
Okay.
And actually, it was the last beer in my flight
Okay.
as well. So that's
Good to
consideration
know.
too.
So the second one is Crushable. Now, I mean, I could probably crush this beer, but I think this may sound weird, but it might be doing a disservice to this beer to crush it. Like, it's not meant to be crushed. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think it's one of those beers you can definitely have 1 or 2 of, but like you want to buy a 6-pack of that and then drink all 6 of them,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
You want to enjoy this beer, not just drink it for the sake of drinking it,
Yes.
right?
So number 3 is dry. It's a little bit dry, but nothing.
Wouldn't be
crazy.
3 for me.
No,
I think it's
so.
5 personally. And Producer Pierre coming in again with that as well.
Number 4 is malty, which
That would be my 3 personally.
yeah.
Would be my 3.
I'm getting maltiness for sure. And number 5, which you mentioned, Brett, is bready.
Yeah, and that would be 4 for me. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So what was your number 1 then, Tyler?
So I had it as Crushable.
Okay.
And the reason for is because I feel like I could have several of these.
Yeah.
Again, it doesn't mean I have to like dummy them.
For sure.
But I feel like if I did buy a 6-pack, I could sit here tonight and have a 6-pack of these and be
Right.
quite content.
Because they can be crushable within a long time frame. You're not necessarily crushing one in like 5 minutes.
And I think that's kind of the distinguishing that we have to make is like there's Crushable, like just you can pound it back, boom, done.
Yeah.
Or like it can be a beer that's repeated, right? We've had some stouts before, some high alcohol content beers. It's like, it's a good beer, but we don't want to have probably more than one a night, right?
Yeah.
And my thought on this beer is it's one of those ones that you can keep in the fridge. And if you want something that you can trust and you know.
All reliable.
And
Yeah.
all reliable.
This
Pick
is
this
it.
one.
That's a good call.
Right?
Yep.
That's a good
Speaking
call.
of other people's thoughts on this, we should dive into Untapped Users. And Chris, you have the first one.
Yeah, so the first one comes from Bruce T, driver _Bruce.
Diver.
Diver.
Oh,
Yeah.
Diver.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Underwater over here.
It's hard to read. So on Christmas Eve, stated, I like Pearl hops in this style. Nice balance and aftertaste. Cheers.
Well, cheers to you, Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce gave it a 4 out of 5.
There you go. The next one is Mike L. Lutman is the handle on November 17th. Stated, solid biscuity Pilsner goodness. 3.25 out of 5.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to get us started here. And again, I did have this October 30th, so not too long ago, right before Halloween, which coincidentally is an anniversary for them, as
Absolutely.
we found out.
Yeah.
And I did have it as a taster. It was the last taster I had, and I did give it a 3.5. And this is where Producer Pierre shoots me in the foot and says, the average of the beers is usually around 3.5. I'm going to stick with my rating of 3.5 with this. It is a good, solid beer.
Oh, reliable for Tyler there.
Yeah, and remember, right, it follows that kind of Czech Pilsner kind of flavor.
Yeah, so I'm going to come in a little bit higher than that. So I think this is, again, like I mentioned, a really good Pilsner. I'm going to give it a 4.
Nice.
You know what, Chris? I think I'm going to agree with you on this one. I'm going to give it a straight 4 as well. And producer Pierre is also going to give it a 4. So, Tyler, what does that give us as an overall score?
Yeah, so that's going to give us a 3.875, which means we're going to round that puppy up to a overall of 4.0.
Well, that makes sense. Well, let's move on to beer number 2. All right, the second beer we're having today is a limited release under the Tagwerk brand, and it's a witbier with Quince. So the Tagwerk brand is master brewer Christian's personal creations, and this beer was actually first released as a collaboration with Bose Brewing back in 2018. So he's kind of redone it with Paris. So you may be asking, what is Quince?
I was actually just going to ask.
Yes.
Yeah. So
What
actually,
is Quince?
Please inform.
I've been pronouncing it incorrectly. It's actually pronounced quince. And so basically, it's a small and rounded palm fruit that grows on trees. And it's actually very tough when raw. So it's best enjoyed cooked. There you go.
Yeah, Farmer Fife likes
I was
that.
going to say, yes, I enjoy
Brett
that.
should have known that. So this beer comes in at 7% ABV with 20 IBUs.
Now, one thing I do want to bring up, that's not on this bulleted list of points to bring up, but I'm going to go off script because that's what I do best.
Okay.
Producer Pierre has had this beer.
He has.
Good for him.
How limited is said release? Because the last time that Pierre had this was February, and we are now coming up on the new February. So that is a 12-month interval.
Well, maybe they release it every, let's say, November to March.
So my point going to this is essentially that it is a limited release. If that's the case, we know that Pierre had it last February, that you might want to get your hands on this prior to the next limited release.
Right.
All right, so this beer has a fruity, tangy, tart kind of aroma medley. It's dancing with peach impressions, which is nice. I'm a big fan
I like
of
peach and impressions, so there you go.
Yeah, and it's got that coriander. So we looked at the first beer that we had that had some kind of like floral notes. We'll see if the coriander comes through, which kind of transitions to like this magenta, mild, dry finish. So it says. Now, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to you, Brett, but I'm going to do it anyways because that's who I am as an individual. This pairs well.
Disservice me. Makes sense? Yep.
Pairs well with cheeses, freshly shucked oysters, mussels, and salmon.
I only like one of those.
3 of the 4 I dislike as well.
we know Tyler loves his seafood.
Yes, I'm a big fan of mussels, right?
No, the only mussels I need
I
are-
love all of those things.
Yeah, well,
Good for you.
yeah.
Anyway, so the witbier is originated in Belgium, is normally brewed with unmalted wheat and malted barley with a spice of coriander and orange peel. Hop flavor and bitterness is generally low, but it has a high carbonation and a dry medium finish.
Nice. So we mentioned how each beer on their website has a playlist. So the playlist created for this beer is actually called Quince Juice and features funk songs. So kind of interesting. So on Untapped for this beer, there's 53 check-ins. That comes with an average of 3.89 bottle caps out of 5. So we're drinking this one out of the bottle. So the bottle has 28 ratings with a 3.87. Now, we mentioned how this was originally released by Bose. So that beer has about 2,100 check-ins with a rating of 3.6. And it looks like, I was taking a look through it, quite a few people are actually checking in this Paris beer to this Bose beer on Untapped. So
Paris for Bose.
So it's actually probably more than 53 check-ins for the Paris one.
Makes sense in terms of limited release, but then producer Pierre got it. Yeah, I'm following now.
Okay. So
Glad
what
you're
what we're going to do in this case, because it's tough to actually get the glassware, the bottle, and the bottle opener. So I'm going to ask that everybody get their bottle opener, their bottle, and let's open her up. Nice. All right, so I'm going to start.
Sorry for the delay. I got to open mine up now.
Yeah.
I dropped it.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Well, we
is.
are pouring this into our witbier glass, or our Weizen glass, sorry. So make sure to use your proper glassware.
Nice. I love the hue coming out of this. It's very kind of that rosé, magenta-ish kind of color,
it is.
right? As you pour it. Excuse me while I put the bottle down. There it is. On the visual, I've got a nice fluffy head.
About 2 fingers depth, I'd say.
Good,
Yeah, pretty big head.
Yeah, I poured it with a little bit. You might see a little bit less in the Instagram picture. But yeah, very kind of that pink hue, if you will.
Pinkish reddish hue, for sure.
Yeah, it kind of looks...
Even the head is a little bit pinky in here. Right?
It is, actually. So it kind of looks similar to... I remember in our first season, we featured Lot 10, and they had I think it was a raspberry wheat
Yeah.
that
Yes.
we did. It kind
Yeah.
of looks similar to that, actually.
It does. That's
And
a
you can
very good
definitely
point.
tell it's very highly carbonated. So we get a little closer and they can see all the bubbles flowing
Yes.
through. And obviously, as I mentioned, this style of beer is heavily carbonated.
It
And
is.
on the nose, it smells very fruity.
See, I'm getting this, and you mentioned this in the first beer.
Yeah.
But I'm getting that kind of coriander kind of smell coming through. I don't know if you can pick up on coriander.
I'm getting a little coriander with, apparently, I'm going to describe it as quince. I don't know I never had the fruit itself, but I'm going to assume it's maybe that.
Yeah, same. I'm going to assume it's the quins, but definitely, like I said, getting that fruity smell.
I think so. The way I'm going to describe this might not be the best way, and I can understand that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
But do you know how, like, whether it's like a grandma kind of situation, like an older relative,
Grandma situation.
yeah, like a grandma or older relative that had like a very kind of like floral kind of like scent, right? That's what I'm getting from this, and it feels kind of comforting, to be honest with you. Like it's traditional, but yet there's this kind of floral fruitiness that's coming through, and that's what I'm
Pretty
getting
sure
from
that's
this.
in Grandma's sweater of the Bath and Body Works candle series.
You know what? It could be if that series actually exists.
Good. I don't know.
No, yeah, of course.
Probably.
You know what,
It probably does, though. Bath
you know
and
what
Body
I
Works
mean?
has all the
Like,
shit.
it's a fine mix between the fruitiness as well as the floral, and that's what I'm picking up.
Well, why don't we taste this bad boy?
Yeah,
Let's go ahead.
let's do that. Or bad girl.
I don't know what quince is, but I like this. That's actually very refreshing. Chris, you seem to finish your sip. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I agree. I've never had a quins before, but it tastes kind of citrusy, but not. I don't know. It's nice, though.
Yeah, I can't put my finger on it.
No?
Because I think
Okay.
it's a fine mix between the floral as well as the fruit.
Well, and also, so this
That
is a
coriander, of
This is a Witbier, right? So
You still get a little bit of banana coming through.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was going to say the banana may be kind of putting off the flavor of the quins, but I think they mix well together.
Yeah, producer Pierre is saying something about clove. I'm not really picking up on it personally, but by all means, Pierre's allowed to have whatever kind of taste.
So I'm just going to say, it states here that quince has an astringent, sour taste.
Quins.
Quince.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you keep going back to the... How it
Has
looks
anybody ever had
phonetically.
like a persimmon before?
Yes.
It's kind of very similar to that.
Okay.
Right.
Because
That's what it says here. I'm just literally...
Farmer Fife looking in the almanac.
Exactly.
Checking
Right?
it out.
it's not sour to
No.
me.
But it's fruity enough, but also like a wit beer.
Yeah, because it's not like fruit in your face, and I think it actually balances pretty well.
I applaud Paris for doing this because
Yeah.
I agree.
you don't, as we know, we don't see this like ever.
No, it's rare to see a Quins beer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So why don't we look at the top 5 flavor profiles? I'll start us off with number 1, tart.
Yes.
Well-
but not number 1. It's in the top 5 for me, not number 1.
That's interesting because I'm not really
don't get it at
getting
all.
tartness. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because it is a wit beer, not a sour, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 2, wheat.
I think the
because
quince is
of
also
style?
drawing that out as well.
Just because of the style, do you think?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
3, dry.
Yeah, this is
drier.
coming through.
Very
dry,
in the back
yeah.
end, 100%.
4, fruity.
I think fruity is going to be 1 or 2 for me.
I agree. I think fruity would be number 1.
Yeah, I think fruity and then that coriander again, like should be 1, 2. But
See, I'm not getting much coriander. Where are you getting beginning, middle, or end?
no, so what I'm getting is when I have my sip, is it's very fruit punch, like not fruit punch, but
Yep.
like fruit
get
up
A
front.
punch of fruit.
Yeah,
Yep.
I get what you mean.
Then it goes into more of like a floral note, and there's no tartness throughout. And then I kind of am getting that wheat beer kind of flavor, like the banana kind of ish on the back end.
See, I'm getting more of the tartness on the back end, personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, to each their
I get a
own.
little bit of banana. I'm not disagreeing with you there.
Yeah.
But I think if you let it simmer in your mouth for a minute, on the swallow, if you will, because again, I have to use that once per podcast, I feel as though you're going to get a little bit more freeness to it. So have another sip.
I have.
Have another one.
I will continue to have them until it's done. But I think that's it. It's like the evolution of this beer. And kudos, obviously, to Christian on this, is just like it speaks through different languages, if you will, throughout the beer.
Yeah,
Whether it's fruit, floral, and then
I agree.
the traditional kind of wheat beer. So
I think
like the progression.
I think we'd see this with a lot of the Paris beers. Is they have complexity to them, right? Like it's not just a standard wheat beer,
Yeah.
right? It's got that complexity and different flavor profiles that you get, and the three of us are getting different things. So
Yeah,
I think it's one of those things, like obviously we noticed through the Bohemian Pilsner and this one, it's like, you're going to get quality and, traditional, but then it got a little bit of ambiance, a little bit of, certain je ne sais quoi, if you will, in terms of what you got. We got it both from the mill race and we're getting it from this one as well.
nice. So the last flavor profile, just to touch base on it, was smooth. I think it's a smooth.
It goes down
kind of
smooth.
beer.
Yeah, I think so.
it's smooth
We have
beer.
to also remember too is a lot of the ingredients are from the farm.
True.
I would tend to think so, yeah.
So kudos to that as well.
Well, producer
yeah,
Pierre, sorry,
please.
he's saying that Quince is actually a flavor profile on Untapped. Believe it or not, it's not in the top 5. So maybe
Mistakes
it
were
should
made.
be.
Mistakes were made.
I wonder if it's in the top 5 in terms of that Bose one.
Farmer Fife,
Oh, maybe.
What do you got there for the next one? There, you can give us.
I do have a thought from an Untapped user.
No.
Oh, no? We don't want to do that yet?
No, I want you to do the information from Pierre there.
Okay, well, I should probably care about Pierre because he cares about me. Blah, blah, blah. So he's thinking that banana should be included. Maybe a little bit of sweetness as well. Do you
Yep.
find it sweet?
Keep going.
He's also saying that Quince.
There you
is,
go.
Yeah, hey, it is what it is, right? We all make mistakes. Look at me. Anyway, similar in appearance to a pear and is bright golden yellow when mature. The tree goes about 5 to 8 meters, not centimeters, because centimeters should be really tiny.
Very small.
5 to 8 meters tall and 4 to 6 meters wide. So pretty big.
That's a big tree.
Perfect. So we're going to move on now to the Untapped users. Now you can go.
Oh,
ahead.
now I can do.
Yeah,
Perfect.
please.
So this is from Dion N. And his handle is DKnots8 on September 18th. Nice and smooth all the way through with fruity undertones, which I agree with, while finishing with a mild tartness and a lingering dryness. And he rated it a 4 out of 5.
Nice. So the next one comes from Brenda D. Davy Ledgerwood is Brenda's handle. So on August 26th, Brenda said, like beer with a hint of good apple cider, and gave it a 3.5 out of 5.
I'm kind of confused by that.
Yeah, I'm not getting apple
Anybody?
cider.
No, but I think maybe it's because of the lightness of it. It does kind of hold like a cider kind of profile because it is very fruity. But maybe that's again from Brenda's perspective, not understanding perhaps the wit beer kind of aspect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
I
now
get
that
that.
I'm
And if you bring it back to what you were discussing earlier on with the raspberry wheat beer,
now that
Right.
I'm seeing it now, I might say even there's a bit of sweetness in this beer.
And
that I
maybe,
would
like,
add.
I don't think you've seen many Quince ciders, if you will, right?
no,
Probably
so
not.
maybe if you had a Quince cider, if somebody out there made one, it
Yeah.
could be comparable. Who knows, right?
Yeah. So in terms of our ratings, I'll get us started. So out of 5 bottle caps, I'm going to give this a 3.75.
3.7, okay. I'm going to stick with the same rating I gave the first beer, which is a 4.
all right. So for me, I'm going to give it a 4.25. It is, again, when we look at the wit beer kind of category, this is doing a great job in the progression of the beer through the beginning sip to the last sip here, as well as throughout the sips. It's very nice, very nice. Okay. The producer is going to give it a 3.5, which they had earlier on in the patio, which we discussed in the opening of this episode. And Chris, what's that going to give us?
So overall, that gives us a 3.875. So same as first beer, we're going to round that up to a 4.0.
And that concludes the review of the Paris Beer Company and the beers that Christian provided for today's episode.
Yeah, so appreciate that. And coming up is going to be a discussion on various sports and where we're at in today's society.
All right, so there's been a lot going on in the sports world lately. So
Has there been?
There has been.
Okay. They're still playing.
Like every day. So basically, we thought we'd do kind of like a whirlwind around, kind of discuss some hot topics in all the major leagues.
All right.
So first, we're going to touch on the NFL. So let's just talk about the regular season at first. So in terms of any surprising teams, if we have teams that we support, how did they do, that sort of thing. So,
well, firstly, the Cincinnati Bengals did not see them winning the division in the beginning of September.
True.
Also, the Bears are who we thought they were.
Sounds like a going thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
They are who they thought they were.
Yep. Now, what about our Patriots?
So
yes, how about them?
So we're all Patriots fans,
We are
right?
actually, yes,
except for
100%.
Pierre. Yeah,
Yeah, Pierre's,
Ask for him.
we're not going to talk about Pierre's team.
yeah, exactly.
Let's leave that out.
So I think I'm pleasantly surprised with Mac Jones. I mean, he's been
Agreed.
really
Solid.
good.
Yeah,
solid.
There were a couple games there recently where he wasn't amazing, but still really good.
But
And
do you want amazing, or do you just want consistency right now with a bit of a transition after Tom Brady era? Right?
Yeah, I mean, considering it's his first year, I think he's done a great job.
Belichick is a coach. It's
Yeah.
not like he just had like I have Tom Brady. I'm good.
You know what?
He's a coach.
I do like to see this. So it's like Tom Brady is succeeding with Tampa Bay.
He is.
100%.
And Mac Jones is doing well with the Patriots.
Yep.
And it's kind of the best of the situation. What we made of it, it's worked out well as a Patriot fan.
Absolutely.
Yes, agreed. Producer Pierre coming in. Ravens, bit of a disappointment. Chargers, bit of surprise.
Now, why is the Ravens a bit of a disappointment? Do you think it's because their defense wasn't as good as it used to be?
Well, I mean,
I
Lamar
agree with
Jackson's
that.
barely played this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right?
I would say also, I was expecting the Rams and the Chiefs to be a little bit of juggernauts in the AFC and the NFC, and they've been kind of middle of the pack.
I think
12-4
Mahomes.
though.
I
Not
think
bad record though,
Mahomes.
right?
Personally, I think Mahomes has kind of been playing hurt a little bit this year.
Yeah, I think so. And Stafford's been hurt too.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs will turn it on.
12-4, 12-5, not bad.
Yeah,
Not bad.
Again, they're playing next week this year, right? So
You take that, right?
for sure,
Right?
as long as you're winning in the playoffs, who cares?
Unless you got them Packers at 13-3.
That one I did not see. Aaron Rodgers didn't even want to be there.
Yeah,
And let alone he's
exactly.
still there, and he might have turned in. I don't think he's going to win MVP, but he turned in an MVP
I
caliber.
think
season.
I think
I
he
think
will
he's
win
got a
that
pretty good
MVP.
case.
Yeah.
Pretty
You
good
think
case.
so?
No,
All right,
Yeah.
all right.
Maybe we switch over to NHL right now. What do you guys got?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of COVID postponements lately.
It's been tough.
Thanks,
eh?
Canada.
Been
Yeah.
tough. Been tough.
So basically, in terms of, I'm a Leafs fan.
Yes, sir.
So
That sucks for you.
Yes, sir.
I don't
Not
think so.
really.
Have you checked the standings?
Yeah.
You'll still lose in the first round.
Third in
Who
the
cares?
Atlantic.
Yeah, so they've been doing pretty well. Obviously, Matthews is on fire as usual. They had a hard COVID scare, but basically it actually worked out well because they postponed their games. They didn't have to play without players.
Right. The Marner kind of conversation about, we should trade Marner. We should trade somebody off the top line, what this looks like. It worked itself out.
Yep.
They're playing well. And goaltending, been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Oh, Campbell's been amazing.
Campbell's been good. Yeah.
So
he's in line for his Vesna. Like,
you think he's going to win the
contention.
Vezina?
No. He's in contention. We talked
He's
about
in. I mean, if he plays this way all year, then yes, he will win the Vesna.
All I will say is the Bruins, even though they played one of the least amount of games in the schedule so far, I'm just going to say Linus Allmark, he's been on fire. So
Sure.
guess what?
Now, what about
Wow, you don't even just
what about our hometown kid, Jared McCann? Right, Jared McCann, local
Yeah.
kid to Stratford.
Yeah, for sure.
Doing well there. He was a very brief stint with
like
the
maybe a
Leafs.
couple hours,
No, he was a little bit longer.
cup of
But
coffee, if you will.
you knew when they were doing the expansion draft with the Kraken there that
He wanted to release the Kraken.
It was evident that he was definitely going to be going that
it was
way.
going to be him or Kerfoot.
which
yeah.
which
for
was
sure.
very unfortunate because Jared McCann, good kid. I know his sister as well. So it comes from a good family, and he's doing well with the Kraken. So nice to see that.
So obviously, we just had the recent news about the NHL not sending their players to the Olympics.
Can we stop for a second and just have a brief conversation maybe about the juniors? I know it's not
Producer
part of the
Pierre
NHL.
was like, I think,
Pierre
crying on
wants
his
it.
couch
Yeah,
about it.
I know, but you're right.
In retrospect, he may see a World Juniors this year, just with China involved.
Yeah. So
In February.
about the Olympics, go ahead. I just wanted to touch base on it.
Yeah, I know. It sucks to not have the World Juniors, right? Because it actually sucks more that the tournament started and then had to get
It shouldn't have started in the
right?
first place, personally, but that's just my opinion.
In terms of the Olympics, like, to me, it's nice to have the NHL players there, but there's so many other sports, and we'll touch on the Olympics a little bit, but there's so many other sports to keep you involved with the Olympics that it's not a huge loss for me.
Right. And Pierre's saying, obviously, you want kind of like the Crosby McDavid out there, but
Producer Pierre took the whole week off just to watch the World Juniors. And then halfway through, he's like, what do I do now?
I haven't seen a French team in the Olympics for hockey in a while. So let's move on to NBA. It's Fast and Furious. Baby.
Yeah, we're going
Fast and
crazy
Furious,
here.
number 9.
So NBA as well. They've been getting hit with tons of COVID. They've they've loosened the rules about players that you can sign from the G League. So there's a lot of no-name players going on. In terms of surprises this season, like the Golden State Warriors, I thought they would be pretty good after last year, but even without Klay Thompson, they've been amazing this year.
But he's now back.
Just came back.
He's now back.
He's back now,
Last
so
night,
I can imagine that they're going to be awesome. The Suns as well, they're still playing really well after making the finals last year. Is a bit of a surprise.
30-9.
See, I didn't see the Suns as a surprise, but I mean, obviously, I'm not good at predicting sports, so there you go.
We've seen that before, yeah.
Bingo. The one thing I will look at is the Raptors when fully staffed, and Producer Pierre agrees with me. They look like a playoff team, and the one thing that the Raptors have going with them is that when a West Coast team is going to come to Canada to play that one game in Canada per year, they're not going to send everybody. So if you look back at the Golden State game that played, they sent no Curry, literally sent nobody. They sent a G League squad.
It's too bad that's where we're at right now. It's like the advantage is played because of that.
And again, it all depends. Like, say for example, if the Raptors get Brooklyn in the first round,
Yes, I was just going to say,
Irving, I'd put the Raptors all in.
He can't play in Canada or in Brooklyn.
Exactly. I'd put the Raptors all in.
Again, is that what we want to see for the sport?
If it benefits us, yes.
It's not what you want to see.
You don't believe that.
But Scotty Barnes is going to take over.
Yeah,
that's all. And Freddie VanVleet.
But we look at the other days when we looked at like kind of this half-ass kind of squad put together, right? Is the Raptors? The Raptors got
Cleveland. The
Raptors got demolished because of the COVID stuff, and that's the problem that we're sitting with right now. So
that's the whole league, though, right now, right?
I know, and that's why it doesn't
bringing a guy back like Joe Johnson, for example, who hadn't played in 4 years. Like, hey, play.
It just doesn't. It doesn't feel the way it should. So I think we can all agree on that.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And with that, let's move on to MLB.
Yeah, so MLB obviously in a lockout right now. So first of all, do we think there's going to be a season? And if so, when does it start? Like, personally, I think we'll see spring training probably start around April and then have a condensed season, maybe 100 games, something like that.
No, I think it'll be done by end of February, beginning of March. I think we're going to see a reduced spring training. We're going to start on time, but the rosters will be expanded. So say like 30, 35 guys. Yes, that's what I'm
Even with
thinking.
COVID, they weren't doing that though, right?
I think you're going to see a roster size a lot larger just for the first few weeks to get everybody warm and in season
in game shape.
So one thing I did talk to Brett the other night about offline was I do want to have a MLB fantasy
this is correct. Yeah,
full on fantasy keeper league that I want to set up where everybody comes over here. We have some hors d'oeuvres. We put on the projector.
The hors d'oeuvres he means beers.
Beers and hors d'oeuvres, and we do it like a whole live thing. I want to actually get serious about it. I want to get some friends. Chris, you in?
Auction draft?
You in?
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right.
Oh, I'm in.
Pierre? Yeah, and I said
he's forking out his money already because he knows he's not winning.
Not like we want to do any kind of legal gambling, but we'll put $100 down. Make it worth it.
Well, why don't we talk about the Olympics then? So
speaking of gambling, the Olympics.
The Olympics are coming up in February. So Winter Olympics this year in Beijing. What do we feel about the Olympics? Do we like it? Do we not like it? I get really immersed in the Olympics.
Is it going to happen?
Yeah, yes. It'll happen.
We're saying it's happening.
Too much moolah involved.
Do you think that some of the sports won't happen because of it, though?
I think some countries will have an issue sending people.
Russia won't.
Well, but like, so
In Soviet Russia, we go
Sorry,
anywhere.
I
so
couldn't help it.
for example, here in Canada, like we have competitions to see who's going to go to the Olympics, and those competitions haven't necessarily been held yet, right? So there might
Look
be
at curling.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Like the
I
mixed
think it's one of
doubles.
those things where like we're going to send people, maybe not in every sport, but as long as they're willing to quarantine, I think it depends on the individual who's getting sent from the specific event.
For sure. And Pierre states the same sort of thing. You know what? Loves the Olympics, winter curling, especially the mixed doubles. Hockey, when there's the caveat, the NHL players are there.
Who does not love ski jumping? Watching it on Wednesday at 7 a.m.
You
in the
know
morning.
what? Skeleton, though. I agree.
Oh,
You're right.
bobsled.
skeleton, bobsled,
skeleton's good.
luge.
Yeah.
I love it all.
Like
yeah.
watching ski people do 3.5 jumps in the air.
You
Yeah.
love to
Why
see.
not?
You love to see
Because you're
old,
never going to watch it for the next 4 years.
old CFL players become bobsledders.
Yes, that's
Oh,
right.
yes.
Jesse Olmsden here.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Lumsden.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a lot of sports talk really quickly. So why don't we wrap it up right now?
All right. And that's all for today's episode.
Thanks again for listening. Keep on listening every Thursday as Craft Beer Connoisseurs releases a new episode, and on our off Thursdays for a producer special.
And make sure to tell your friends, family, and your favorite friend from Paris, whether it be Ontario or France.
Patty. So from all of us and producer Pierre, I'm Tyler.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Chris, and together we're the Craft Beer Connoisseurs.